Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Rachel Williams begins now.
Good evening, everyone. Ahead of more strike action in Tasmanian schools this week, the government is accusing the Education Union of inappropriately pressuring its own members. It's released an anonymous letter from a teacher who says they felt intimidated and uncomfortable with the union's handling of school votes. But the AEU says the letter smells of political games as the battle over wages and conditions heats up.
At the Education Union's headquarters, they're preparing signs for this week's stop work protests. Thousands of teachers walking off the job on Tuesday or Wednesday as the pay dispute with the government continues.
In the long term, this is what we have to do. We don't have a choice. It is the only way the government and the public will listen to what we need. And at the end of the day, we're doing it for the kids.
The AEU and other public sector unions received a revised offer from the state government late on Friday. It included an extra 0.25% pay rise over 3 years to total 7%. But that came with trade-offs.
The offer that's on the table is a very good offer. It's sensible, it's affordable.
One of the things that was really disappointing for what the government said in their statement was they were unwilling to speak to unions or negotiate in the next 2 weeks. That doesn't seem like a government that wants to end this situation.
As the state government battles unions, it's released a letter it says it received from an anonymous teacher. It criticises the way the AEU handled a vote on the previous pay offer at their school. Instead of a secret ballot, it says we were asked to vote with a show of hands, which was unusual. Not only did I have to publicly cast my vote, but a photograph of the vote and how people voted was taken. I felt highly intimidated by this and very uncomfortable. I know colleagues who felt the same.
I'm disappointed with some of the accusations levelled. I'd love for that member to come forward and let us know what happened, but I disagree that the process has been one of bullying or intimidation.
The AEU should put the offer on the table in its entirety and allow teachers to vote via a secret ballot, rather than standing over them and intimidating them.
The AEU executive will meet on Monday to formally decide on the latest offer. Michael Breen, 7 Tasmania News.
Well, 2 men have survived a light plane crash in Georgetown this afternoon. The men in their 60s were on board the plane when it went down at 4:40. They've been transported to the Launceston General Hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. The cause of the crash is under investigation. The Tasmania Fire Service spent the early hours of this morning battling 2 blazes. Fire investigators determining both the Bridgewater and Rochalee house fires were deliberately lit.
The charred remains of a front living room. Fire crews receiving a call from a neighbour and arriving at this Bridgewater property at around 3 a.m. this morning.
Upon arrival, the house was well involved in fire, approximately 30%, in particular the front area. 2 crew members wearing breathing apparatus entered through the front door to extinguish the fire. With
the blaze significantly damaging the residents.
Fire-related heat and smoke, approximately half of it, so 50%, but the house total in value would be $200,000 to $250,000.
But luckily, no one was home during the incident.
The residents weren't actually at home at the time, which is great, and we are actually working with them through the investigation process.
The Tasmania Fire Service is also investigating a deliberately lit fire in Rochalee in Launceston, with the property in COMMANE Street targeted for a second time. The blaze tearing through the centre of the house, with this second attack part of the street's long history with arson. It's unsure whether the property will be bulldozed, and like the fire in Bridgewater, the occupants weren't home at the time. Ruby COMMANE, 7 Tasmania News.
Tasmania Police is appealing to the public for information in relation to a burglary at the Royal Hobart Showgrounds over the weekend. The offenders smashed their way into an on-site office building, stealing money from inside a safe as well as campers' bank details. Anyone who camped at the Royal Hobart Showgrounds and can assist police can contact Crime Stoppers. It's been a long process with a few hurdles along the way, but today the delayed Bridge of Remembrance in Hobart has officially been opened to the public, stretching 200 metres to connect the cenotaph to the Soldiers Memorial Avenue. The walkway now accessible in the lead up to Anzac Day.
The ribbon finally cut after months of waiting. Officials leading the way across the $11 million commemorative overpass.
We're opening the Remembrance Bridge, which will connect the cenotaph with the Soldiers Memorial Avenue, but will also make it just easier for the Hobart community to access the Queen's Domain.
This bridge symbolises what all of us need to do, and that's to remember all those that not only died in war and in other conflicts, but all those that have served, and not only the servicemen and women, but their families.
The Federal Minister for Veterans Affairs visiting the state's capital to celebrate the opening.
I love the way Tasmanians commemorate those who've served their country in the past, so to have this Bridge of Remembrance I think is very important. The community's come out in force, just as they'll come out in force on Anzac Day again to recognise all those who've served and those who continue to keep us safe today.
The bridge originally planned for the centenary commemoration of the end of World War I in November last year.
These projects do take longer sometimes than expected, and we had some bad weather. But it'll be now here for a very, very long time, many years to come, so I'm sure it'll be used a lot and will be used for many Remembrance Days and Anzac ceremonies as well.
It's been 3 years or so since we first conceptualised the project, but to see people using it and really getting the space that we intended as they move along it has been really important and it's very satisfying.
A new connection to remember our fallen soldiers. Ruby COMMANE, 7 Tasmania News.
The loved ones of a late Tasmanian war veteran have raised more than $12,000 for mental health programs in his honour. Matthew MILLHOUSE died at the age of 36 due to early onset dementia after a bomb blast brain injury.
A fundraising event in military style, participants lugging packs up to 20 kilograms across a 12-kilometre course. This mission a personal one for some of the participants.
We've even got some wonderful friends who serve with Matthew that have come down from Queensland, Canberra and Melbourne. So they were actually over in Iraq when he was involved with the car bomb explosion.
It was initially thought the trooper escaped the 2004 blast relatively unscathed.
I had physical injuries, but Matthew had longer term, probably more sinister underlying issues.
It's believed he had a traumatic brain injury which triggered young onset dementia, a condition that claimed his life in 2015 at the age of 36.
It was a really terrible time, and so to be able to do this is not just keeping Matthew's memory alive, but to be able to say thank you to all of those people that did help us.
This event also including bike riding, kayaking and walking, raising money for the White Cloud Foundation.
White Cloud Foundation developed programs to help people predominantly with post-traumatic stress disorder, perinatal depression, the anxiety and depression.
You know, Matthew is well connected in the military and well connected in the community, and I think he would really love us to be able to, you know, allow his legacy to thrive like this in such a positive way.
This, the third annual event, raising more than $12,000 in honour of Matthew MILLHOUSE. Michael Breen, 7 Tasmania News.
The Northwest Thunder has shown it'll be a force in the new NBL 1 competition after thrashing the Southern Sabres in Ulverston last night, while the new-look Launceston Tornadoes outfit had a tough start to the season. It was a dream start for what could be an NBL 1 dream team, the Thunder dominant, winning every period of play. 19-year-old Trey Armstrong was the strong arm of the side, shooting 32 points, a game high which had the Southern Sabres licking their wounds. The Thunder thrashing their rival 96-63. At Orphan, the clean-out of Lauren Mansfield, Lauren Nicholson, Ellie Collins and Ellie Wilson was always going to leave a chink in the Tornadoes' armour. And it took until the second half of last night's game for the new-look side to have an impact. Down 43-35 at the main break, the Tawns looked to new recruit Stella Beck for guidance, who downed 11 points in front of the home crowd. The Tawns clawed back the deficit to a respectable 6 points at the final buzzer, Launceston 64, the Southern Sabres 70. To netball and defending champions, the Northern Hawks have started season 2019 beautifully, winning their first 2 games against Corona and Kingston by at least 20 points. Cavaliers also won their first 2 hitouts against Kingston and Cripps, while the struggling Devon lost its first 2 games against Cripps and Arrows. The first round of the TSL wrapped up overnight with North Launceston shutting down Kingborough's early hype. Despite the exodus of players from the Northern Bombers, there's still plenty of power left. Playing coach Taylor Whitford booted 6, Ben Elmer and Ryan Mansell kicked 2 each. North Launceston running home 53-point winners. The Tasmanian Devils started the Under-18s NAB League with a loss. It took until the second quarter for Nick Baker to kick the side's first goal for the season. The Devils chipped away at the deficit and the Sydney Swans Academy boys themselves before going down 56-42. Overseas, and Tassie runner Sam Clifford has produced the best performance by an Aussie in 10 years at the Men's World Cross Country Championships. Competing in the under-20s division, 16-year-old Clifford finished 30th out of more than 100 starters. In the NPL, Olympia has thrashed Riverside 5-0 at Warrior Park, while Launceston City has hung on for a 2-2 draw with the Hobart Zebras thanks to a late strike by Noah Mees. And Lindisfarne has claimed its first Cricket Tasmania Premier League flag in 8 seasons after accounting for Clarence, while Burnie is the Cricket Northwest champion after comfortably defeating Ulverston. Back home, and the final of the Ron Atkins Pot Black Classic is underway, with 2 Victorians playing off in the best of 11 frames decider. Steve Mifsud began proceedings at Launceston's Workers Club, but he slipped behind Joel Younger, who's won the first 3 frames of the match.
Steve was seeded number 1 in the absence of last year's defending champion, and of course Joel Younger, no stranger to coming to Tassie for big events, is one of Australia's top-ranked players.
Tasmanian snooker champion Cale Barrett was knocked out in the semi-final. And boxing legend Daniel Gill was on hand at KFM Fitness last night for his testimonial fight night. A packed house was treated to a Q&A hosted by Gill's amateur coach Graham George between a stacked card of more than a dozen fights.
Good evening. An overcast day and a few showers for the west and south. Partly cloudy elsewhere. Hobart up to 17 today. Launceston warmer than forecast, 21. 18 for Burnie, and Devonport reaching a top of 20 degrees. St Helens also reached 20 today. 19 for Low Head and Flinders Island. King Island 16. Grosvenor News 15. Strawn a low of 7 overnight, but up to a top of 14 degrees today. On the close-up, widespread low-level cloud over the west, south and northeast. On the satellite, a long cloud band runs from the Queensland tropics over the Coral Sea and down to a low near New Zealand. Low cloud covering southern parts of the mainland. Tomorrow, a large high over Victoria will extend over most of Australia, coastal troughs along WA and the Northern Territory. On the water, and southwesterly winds at 15 to 25 knots, decreasing to 15 knots during the morning. Swells below a metre in the north, up to 3 in the east. No warnings for tomorrow, so on to Monday's forecast. Hobart, a partly cloudy day and 17. A cloudy day for Dover, 17 also. 19 on the way for Ooze. Launceston, a fine day and 19. A sunny 18 for Devonport. A cloudy day for Scottsdale, 18 there. Burnie tomorrow, mostly sunny and 18. A cloudy day for Strawn, 17. Stanley looking at 18. A cloudy 18 in St Helens, the sun shining in Swansea 18, and a sunny day also for Ross, 19 the top, after a low of 2 degrees. The UV a moderate 5 across the state. Turning to Tuesday now, possible light morning and evening showers about the west, but fine elsewhere apart from some possible morning fog. Wednesday, showers about the west extending throughout during the day. And finally Thursday, possible light showers about the north, but a fine day to be expected elsewhere. Capital cities tomorrow, Melbourne looking at some possible morning drizzle, a top of 17. Sydney 23, Canberra 21, 27 in Brisbane, Adelaide 22, Darwin 35 and Perth, a fine day and 29 degrees. And currently it's 13 in Hobart, sunny in Launceston and 15, sunny also in Devonport and 15 there also. Rach, a few fine days ahead of some showers on Wednesday. That's all from me.
And a bit of a chilly start by the sounds of it. Thank you for that, Laura. Well, that's all your news for now. Thanks for joining us. I'll see you again tomorrow night at 6. I'm Rachel Williams. Good night.